So, M20. That's a set that came out. And overall, it's pretty good. But, like every set, it's filled with a lot of shit. Now, you might be thinking, Tony, why are you even doing this video? You're a bit late to the party. M20's already been out for at least a month. Well, I don't really know myself, if I'm being totally honest. But, there seems to be a lot of wasted cardboard that Wizards of the Coast love using. And, I guess, I just care about the environment. There's plenty of videos going on about what the best cards in the set is. We all know what the best cards in the set is. Just go on Card Market and sort by price. You can see all the best cards right there. What people need to know is what cards to avoid. What cards, should the situation arise, is your go-to cards for toilet paper. The cards that ultimately, if you ever trade them off, you'll be breathing a sigh of relief. Do I have any kind of reliable, scientific method for how I pick the cards in this list? No. Should you listen to any word that I say on the matter? No! And should you like and subscribe to the channel? Well, yeah, fuck it, go on then. But anyway, let's just get on with the list. And as much as I know that you're gonna tear into me in the comments, I'm gonna cover my ass and say, this is just my opinion. And I also understand that, yes, every card in the set has, I guess, its own little bit of a place if we're talking about sealed or draft. Basically, everything is usable, at least a little bit, in those formats, so we're just going to ignore sealed and draft for the purposes of this video. But even in saying that, there are certainly some cards in this video that even with sealed and draft, are basically fucking useless. But anyway, let's go on to the mythics. And with the mythics, there are really only two that are particularly terrible. So the first card we're talking about is Kalia Zenith Seeker. Now this is a 3 mana human cleric, 3/3 flying with vigilance. Now that is okay, and it is red, white, black, so you have to play it in a red, white, black deck, so already it is pretty limited. Now its effect lets you look at the top 6 cards of your library and add any angel, demon or dragon in amongst that to your hand. Now that might seem okay, but it's just not. No one's playing it, and at no point do I ever want to play this card. It seems to me that this card is more of a commander card, and as we all know, commander isn't a real format. So moving on. We have another gold border card, Kethis the Hidden Hand. This is a white, black, green card, and again, that makes it pretty limited in the scope of how you can use it. But its effect is a little bit counterintuitive if you ask me, because you have to exile 2 legendary cards from your graveyard, and then it allows you to play legendary cards from your graveyard. But so you need to exile the cards in your graveyard to play the cards in your graveyard. I can see why this card is worth less than £1. Now, yeah, fair enough, its passive effect, where all legendary spells cost 1 less to cast, is good, without a doubt. But the fact that you have to play this in a 3 colour deck makes it extremely limited in scope. So yeah, Kethis the Hidden Hand, and let's just keep it hidden, please. Now that pretty much sums it up for the mythics. There really is only 2 mythics that I deem to be pretty much worthless, and that includes even you, Cavalier of Dawn. You'll have your day, don't worry. And this allows us to move on to the rares, and oh god! There's a lot to unpack here. Now when it comes to the rares, I'm glad I made the video this late into the product's life cycle, because there's certainly a few cards that I would be kicking myself about putting on the list. One of which being Agent of Treachery. This card is fucking my bro. The first absolutely useless card that's a rare is a Tempsis, All-Seeing. This card is a 6 mana 4/5 flying, which seems okay until you realise that you need to invest 3 blue into casting this thing, of which one of its effects is pay 2 and a blue, tap it, draw 2 cards, and then discard a card. That seems okay. You know, until you read Spectral Sailor. And its main effect is a... What's the word? Shit! That's the word. Its effect is, whenever a Tempsis deals damage to an opponent, you reveal your hand to your opponent, and if you have 6 cards with different mana costs in your hand, then you win the game. Jesus, that's so bad. This card requires you to not play your cards in order to win, which doesn't really make any sense to me, honestly. I would rather play my cards to win, thanks. The fact that it takes up a rare slot is just horrible. So thanks for Wizards for printing this bit of toilet paper. So at the very least it has one use, at the very least. So the next card on my list of cards that I absolutely hate pulling out of packs, Glinthorn Buccaneer. Really, on the surface, this card doesn't seem that bad, but really when you read into it, you would never use it in anything, ever. So it's a 3 mana card, 2 red and a 1. It's got haste, 2/4. Those stats are actually okay, and whenever you discard a card, it deals 1 damage to your opponent. I think my problem with this card is that the deck that it's meant for just doesn't really exist. Red just doesn't really have any reliable draw power, and despite the fact that Glinthorn Buccaneer lets you draw a card and discard a card when it's attacking for 2 mana, that just doesn't seem good enough to me, at all. That's a whole 5 mana that I need to invest to cycle a card and deal 1 damage to my opponent. 5 mana just kills your opponent in red. Now, admittedly, maybe there's some kind of Cavalier of Buccaneer deck that this could work in, but I just don't see this ever being a thing. Stop trying to make Glinthorn Buccaneer a thing. So the next card on this list is Loxodon Life Chanter. So this is a 6 mana 4/6 Elephant Cleric card. This says, when it enters a battlefield, you can have your life total become the total of all your creature's toughnesses added together. And then for another 6 mana, it gains XX, where X is your life total. Now I get that like there will be a lot of people probably defending this card, but there's a reason why it's just not seen play. It's just way too awkward for it to be used. 6 mana, especially in standard, is huge, and it's just never going to see play because of that. It seemed to me like it goes along the same lines of Lotus Field, where in theory you read it and you go, oh, that's kind of cool, but then it just never sees play because the deck that it should be in just doesn't exist. There's just not enough to support it. And maybe some people might argue that that's not the card that's bad, but if the card just doesn't have a place, then it's just not good, is it? And God, I just know there's going to be one person in the comments going, well, I've got my Loxodon Life Chanter deck. Well, good for you. I guess I'll see you at first place in the Mythic Championship then. The next card is Shifting Ceratops. Nah, I'm just joking, card's fucking sick. The actual next card is Wakeroot Elemental. And fucking hell, this card is shit. Aside from Atemsis, arguably the worst rare in the set. And why is it the worst rare in the set, you ask? Well, for 1 more mana than Nissa costs to summon, you can get a 5/5 Elemental. And now, just because Risen Reef exists does not mean every Elemental's good all of a sudden. Now for a whole 5 green mana, you can untap a land and have it become an Elemental land. But at absolutely no point in my existence would I ever play this over Nissa. And if you would, you should feel bad about that decision. This is a prime example of a card that I would really be reluctant to use even in draft or sealed. Now the next card on the rare list is Dungeon Geists. There's not a whole lot I can say about this card because it doesn't really do a whole lot. And it's not terrible because I can see it maybe having a place in Flyers, maybe. But it just doesn't really do anything interesting or anything particularly great. I guess you could say me and Dungeon Geists have a lot in common in that case. All it does is when it enters a battlefield, it taps one of your opponent's guys, and then it can't untap, as long as it's on the field anyway. This could have just been an uncommon. There's plenty of uncommons that I would much rather have seen in the rare slot. At the very least, that way it would have made the uncommon value a lot higher, such as Veil of Summer would have been a great rare, Risen Reef would have been a great rare, and that would have allowed these cards to retain a lot more value. But no, we get fucking hit with shit like Dungeon Geists. So now when you open a pack you can go, oh, I've lost money, great. So that does it for the rares. Now yeah, there are still some more underwhelming rares, but the ones that I've mentioned so far are the ones that when I open it in a pack, I just want to vomit all over it with complete loathing and disgust. Now next we move on to the uncommons. And with that, the bar is set a bit lower still. These cards have to be really pretty bad in order to come on this list, because ultimately, it's an uncommon. Who really cares? Well, I cares! As far as I'm concerned, there's no reason why every card printed shouldn't have at least a bit of a use, some kind of value, worth something to somebody, somewhere. And the first one is Air Elemental. Stop printing cards like this, for the love of Christ. That's all I need to say about this. Here's a card that I've literally just realised exists. It was so bad, I just didn't know that it existed. And it's Diviner's Lockbox. Now, this card lets you pay 5 mana to maybe draw 3 cards. Who's playing this card? Like, yeah, I guess it combos with Scheming Symmetry, but then who's playing Scheming Symmetry Turbo with Diviner's Lockbox? That's just not a thing. This isn't even good in sealed or draft, like at all. Although, I guess, considering your deck is smaller, it's technically better. But that's besides the point. I think the fact that this card sacrifices itself makes it extremely terrible. So unless you have a way of setting up Diviner's Lockbox to draw 3 cards, you still have to do the setup and then make sure it's went off for you to draw 3 cards. So overall, with Scheming Symmetry, you need 2 cards and 6 mana to draw 3 cards. Now, there's probably an amount of shit to do with some kind of artifact shit or whatever, but on the surface, this card's terrible, and if anyone's playing it, okay, sure, I guess, shame on me, but yeah, this card ain't good. Sorry. So the next terrible uncommon is Gruesome Scrounger, Orc Warrior, 5 mana, 3/3. So already it's extremely understated. When it enters the battlefield, you get to do damage to an opponent or planeswalker equal to the number of creatures you control. Christ, 5 mana just wins you the game when you're playing black. This card's fucking terrible. Jesus, I'll give anybody 100 quid if they win a tournament maining 4 Gruesome Scrounger. Go on. And yeah, I get it. It's an uncommon. But it's besides the point. It's just never going to be used. I feel bad for poor Gruesome Scrounger. It's unfair on him. Especially when there's so many great uncommons in this set. I understand that not all uncommons are created equally, but this one certainly isn't. Oh boy, do we have a baffling one with this one. And this is Ogre Siegebreaker. Now for 4 mana, black-red, may I add, you get a 4/3 Ogre that has the ability that for another 4 mana, it just turns into a Vraska's finisher. This card, I legitimately think, is the worst card in the entire set. Not only is it understated, you overall need to pay 8 mana to destroy something that was already dealt damage. There is so much better removal in black-red that I just can't believe this card was even printed. Really. So here's a card that just basically doesn't have any text on it. Yarok's Wavecrasher. It's a 4 mana blue elemental 4/4, which is, I guess, about as solid as a stat lineup can be, but when it enters the battlefield, you can return another creature you control to the hand. Why? Why would you ever want to do that in whatever deck this would go in? I was thinking maybe you could return a Frilled Mystic back to your hand, but why would you do that? If this card had flash, it might actually be sort of semi-usable, but it doesn't, and because of that, it's not usable at all. Now that does it for all the uncommons. There's still plenty more fairly bad uncommons, but that was the worst uncommons. And now we move on to the worst commons. And now, you might be going, again, Tony, why are you bothering doing this? And again, I don't know, but please subscribe. Now, of course, to get on this part of the list, these cards have to be the worst of the worst. And there are some cards that do make it to this part of the list. Now, when it comes to the commons, I'm just going to rhyme off a list of all the bad ones, because most of the commons are pretty bad. But I'm not just going to blanket statement and go, all the commons are bad, because there's plenty of fucking amazing commons in this set as well. So, let's just get to that then. Now remember, this doesn't include draft and sealed. And with that in mind, and in no particular order, we have Dawning Angel, Daybreak Chaplain, Soulmender, Squad Captain, Fortress Crab, Frilled Sea Serpent, Metropolis Sprite, Moat Piranhas, Agonizing Siphon, Barony Vampire. Now, technically Bone Splinters, because Spark Harvest just completely power creeps it, but I mean, it's like, still sort of as good as Spark. I mean, it's a good card, so it doesn't really count, but Spark Harvest does power creep it, you know. But this one doesn't count. Just making a point. Sorcerer of the Fang, Chandra's Embercat, Daggersail Aeronaut, Destructive Digger. Jesus, it's so bad. Fire Elemental, Goblin Bird Grabber, Ripscale Predator. And don't at me on this one, there are better dinosaurs. You would never play this. Centaur Courser, Brightwood Tracker. 10 quid to anybody that can tell me why this card exists and what possible space it fits in Standard. Or any format, for that matter. Why does this card cost 4 mana? Why does it only have 2 attack when it costs 4 mana? Why does it have to tap for its effect? Why does its effect cost 6 mana? especially when Vivian's Grizzly does all of this, but better. Not only that, Vivian's Grizzly can search Planeswalkers as well. Absolutely nobody benefits from this card existing. Maybe Wizards just forgot Vivian's Grizzly exists. Whoopsie. Mammoth Spider. Heart Piercer Bow. Now, this is a card I really want to talk about because it was almost incredible. This could have been like the best common like in the set, realistically, but its wording is just not specific enough to give it any kind of use. So here are some examples of what they could have done to it. At the very least, 1 mana, equip 1. Or make it so whenever the creature attacks, the creature deals 1 damage. That way, you can give it to shit with Death Touch. Or you could have made it so that when the monster attacks, this puts a -1/-1 counter on a monster. So it's like a permanent thing. Then it'd have been really cool. But instead, we got the absolute most disappointing version of this card. And there we have it. That is my list of all the worst cards in M20. Now, by all means, have a go at me in the comments, because I know you're gonna, but please try and be a little bit civil about it. And indeed, if you have any cards that you want to add to the list, tell me in the comments as well. Let's get some kind of horrible discussion going. And if you made it this long, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. You, John, you should subscribe. I mean, one of you will be called John, right? But yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.